I'm going to take you on a quick tour of my new revised garden area. The garden was built as a raised bed, 20 by 32 feet, about 6 years ago, I think it was. And this year I'm converting it to the Mittleider system, or at least as close to the Mittleider system. Part of the Mittleider system is automatic watering, and what I've done is installed in this particular garden area 4 irrigation lines, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Each irrigation line is connected. It's actually, let me tell you, the garden is the Mittleider system sets you up with 30-foot rows, 18 inches wide. And in this case, since I'm using soil without the wooden frame box, I use mounds of dirt on each side to define my rows. But the row is 18 inches wide and 30 feet long. And for me, instead of running a 30-foot irrigation line, what I did is I divided the garden into two 15-foot sections, and you can see right there, there's a cap on the end of the 15-foot section. So I've got actually divided the garden into 2 zones, the right side and the left side. And you can see each irrigation tube is set up the same way. It has a union, it has a valve, and then it's fed by a manifold. And each manifold section for each tube has a union, so the whole thing comes apart for storage. And the union on the irrigation tubes, I put that in there so I could remove the tube and get in there with my tiller. I have a little Honda tiller, and I can get in there and facilitate tilling without worrying about damaging the tube. So that's the way the irrigation system is set up. Initially, I had the manifold feeding both sides and connected together, but after an experiment, I turned the valves off on one side. On the right side, I turned all the valves off just to check the flow increase on the left side of the garden. I like the increased flow, so I decided to split. This used to be a single tube right here, so I split that and divided the garden into a left and a right zone. And so initially this was a solid tube between here, and this was the main feed right here. But I changed that. Now I have 2 feed points, the right side and the left side. And to feed those points, or to control those points, I use a Melnor electronic valve. And this is a Melnor, highly recommended. This is a 2-zone valve, so I feed my right side and my left side of the garden. And this particular Melnor timer has a rain sentry, the aqua sentry they call it. So if the garden is wet enough, it keeps the valve from turning on. So you will skip a cycle if your garden has enough water, according to the aqua sentry. And this is 2 zones here, and it shows, let's see, start here at the top. It shows the time of day, then it shows your zones, zone 1 and zone 2. Then it shows the start water time. I started at 7:45 p.m. right now, and it waters for 15 minutes, and it waters every 12 hours. So I'll water at 7:45 p.m. and 7:45 a.m. for 15 minutes. The automatic program right now is off. The manual program is off. The rain delay is off, and batteries are checking okay. So that's the Melnor timer. I also added a single zone timer, which is essentially the same thing, but only a single zone. And I can't recommend these Melnor timers enough. They work great. Let's turn on. I'm going to turn on my new garden area. Just show you what the flow looks like. All right. Now the manual, I just turned it on for 5 minutes. There, the valve just switched on. Let's go to the new garden area and see what the flow looks like. There you can see water's starting to dribble out. The system's filling up, and now you can see some streams of water coming out. Some places you can see dribbles. Those are places where I don't think I got the plastic cleaned out of the hole. The holes are so small, number 57 drill bit, but some of them still have plastic in there apparently, and need to be cleaned out. This is zucchini right in here. Then I've got some watermelon. Then I've got 3 pumpkin plants. Then here we've got melons, cantaloupe, and honeydew. We'll see how those work. You can see the water coming out. And then this one is yellow squash. And you can see the streams. This probably has too much water coming out, but it's valve adjustable, so I can fiddle with that as I learn more about it. Yellow squash, these are going to get huge, probably 6 feet across. And I already put my pre-plant fertilizer in there, and day before yesterday I put the weekly feed in, so we'll see how that works. Here you can see the irrigation tube and the union and the valve to control it. Another union in the manifold. But that's my new garden area. This will probably next year get another row. We'll go to 4 irrigation tubes instead of 3. And over here I've got my T-frames that I built using the idea from LDS Prepper. And I used 2x4s to build mine. He used 4x4s. They had a sale on 2x4s, and also 2x4s are easier to work with, easier to saw on. And I screwed them together with galvanized screws, galvanized nails, and these will facilitate going vertical. So the idea is to this area here will be area here will be cucumbers, and they'll be growing up baling twine tied onto these and going down to the ground. So my cucumbers are going to grow up, go vertical. This section is cucumbers. This section is pole beans, and we're going to go vertical with the beans. And then down here is this is a good example of Mittleider. This is a two row. This is an 18-inch row, but with 2 plant rows in it, staggered, because these are cauliflower. They'll get medium-sized. And if they were smaller plants, like bush beans, I would just plant solid rows. I think the beans are every 3 inches spaced or something like that. This is cauliflower. The other end, the other half of the 15 feet on the other end is broccoli. And here you can see my walk path. It's approximately 27 inches between the dirt piles. By getting rid of these dirt piles and going to a wood frame around my 18-inch rows, I'm going to gain enough space to put in at least 1 more row in, possibly 2 more rows, but for sure next year we'll go with another row and another irrigation tube. And again, you see the valve in the union. This is green pepper. I got a 15-foot section of green pepper, and then I've got a section of garlic I planted, and then lettuce and spinach down at the far end. And then this is tomatoes. This guy by itself is a cherry tomato. I eat those while I'm working in the garden. And then these are my salad tomatoes that mainly set the garden up for salad. I have tomatoes, cucumbers, green peppers, and I love my tomato and cucumber salads. And broccoli and cauliflower and beans and squash. So we'll have some good vegetables. But this is my garden, and this is the T-frames for going vertical, and based on the Mittleider system. We'll see how that works out.